tried to get my coffee ready, but the chocolate wasn't mixing in. Hang on. Alright, where are we? Yes. Here. Alright, let's just sit here for a moment. Where's my chat window? There it is. Excuse me while I try to mix in this hot chocolate mix. The water's hot, so I don't know why it's not mixing. I think it just needs to seep in a little bit more. Centrifuge. Alright, campers. Today... Oh, I should do the... okay. 2 days. Then, art is for the thing, the 80s one. No, it's like the old one. But not the oldest one. The John Carpenter one. Carpenter? No, I spelled that completely wrong. No content warnings for here, because it's mostly visual horror. So, there, and pin. There we go. Alright. Mouse. Mic. Ah. I accidentally kicked my chair. And here we go, diving right in. Now, because this one is more based on visual horror, I thought I would draw just some simple fan art. I had the idea for this one, but then I remembered I'd have to then draw half frozen Kurt Russell. And I just, you know what? I spent all day yesterday basically drawing human, Jodie Foster. I'm just gonna draw a dog today. But it's not a dog. Here's reference pic of Pupper. Whatever dog they got to, play as the thing in the beginning, that was a very good pupper. They deserved all the belly rubs, all of the kisses, and all the numbers. Okay, I had to look up my dog. Because if he heard me say all that, and I wasn't giving him any, ooh, it'd be hell to pay. Notice the pupils that I draw are either squared or like teardrop or just a straight line. Those are the types of pupils I draw. No, that looks too sad. This needs to be like a stare into your soul type look. Now, should the dog be looking up or the not dog? Oh, that's terrifying. Yep, that'll do it. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's The Thing, consider yourself lucky. It's not a bad movie. It's just, oof. Body horror, man. One of my first introductions to body horror, and I've only watched it recently. This wasn't like a movie that I watched when I was too young or anything like that. No, not the case. I watched this, like, this year as an adult. And it still scared the willies out of me. Oh, that's why it's going too far down. Round it out a little bit. There we go. Oh, it's better. I'm gonna draw and stir my coffee at the same time. Because I want to drink it! Oh well. Cheers. Okay, it did help, but the way I've had to make this concoction is not working for me. When it comes to the movie itself, I don't really have much to say, mostly because the part of the intrigue of the movie is the mystery and not knowing who to trust, and just like, okay, who's infected, who isn't infected, does that even matter at this point? And also the body horror. Like, whoever was in charge of making these monster puppets, because it's puppetry, which is what I love about OG horror. It's puppets. Puppetry. I don't want it to look like the not dog is smiling. But this is just kind of how dog lips are. That looks a little too wide for the look I'm going for. I want it to look slightly unsettling. Because now, honestly, with the dog, that was not the scariest part of the movie. But my god, was it the most upsetting? Because it's not a dog anymore. And then they put it in with the other dogs that they have there, and it tries to assimilate them, and it's a very upsetting scene because those are very well-trained dogs, I'll say that. Very well-trained dogs. And I think the fact that it's not janky puppetry kind of adds to the horror of the thing. Because I haven't seen the 2011 prequel. I saw part of it, and I'm like, okay, this thing is going to be very CGI heavy, which is going to be scary, but I don't think it's going to be as scary as the original, because part of why it was so scary is that the movements were so unnatural. You know? It was like janky and kind of stop motion, and its movements were like, its head would bobble a certain way. It'd just be, ugh, it's so upsetting. The copy button got stuck. There we go, that's better. Very superstitious, writing on the wall. Okay, since this is, I think a husky or a malamute or something like that. Not a malamute, but it looks something like that. So its ears are not wolf-like. So I can give them more of a point. But I think the dog actor was part wolf. I don't remember. I watched a bunch of, like... Here's the thing. I did a bunch of research and watched a whole bunch of behind the scenes when I was sketching and coming up with ideas for drawings. But then, you know, when it comes to the actual stream, what do I do before stream? Right? Immediately before hitting go live? Oh, I watched a Big Puffer video of him playing Marvel Rivals. Because I enjoy Marvel Rivals. I don't play it because my poor computer could not handle the game. It would not even open. But I also enjoy Big Puffer, so. If the ears are up, so that means this head bit would be flat. Yeah. So the ears need to be a little bit higher. Yeah, because the eye, yeah. They're too low on the head. What the? Forgot to merge that layer down. Another thing that I kind of like about, the thing, but is kind of detrimental to the overall, like, stakes, I guess, of the game, not the game, wow, excuse me, the movie, is there are, like, 12 characters that we are immediately introduced to, and I I know this is just a me thing, but I take a ridiculously long amount of time to pick up on people's names. Especially if the majority of the movie is, them using nicknames or just saying, hey, asshole, the whole time. So it's really hard for me to pick up on nicknames. Which is probably why it's also really hard for me to pick up on social cues, but that might be a different, issue I'm dealing with. There we go. Ow. Yeah, today might be a shorter stream, just because I also streamed yesterday. And my body needs to recover. But I mean, like, seriously, if I get carpal tunnel, I don't have it, but if I do get it, man, I'm screwed. Because I hardly ever take breaks. For instance, there's this character, I can't remember his name. Like, if I heard the name, it'd be like, yeah, that guy. Who's the, like, the cook of the crew, and he's always on roller skates. He's a fun character. He just calls everyone Buwana. Which is hilarious to me. I don't know if anyone else would see that as offensive, but I think it's hilarious. If you don't know Buwana, and I might be wrong here, but this is just my understanding of the word. The word Buwana was the word or nickname, I guess it might be even considered derogatory, of what African, like, guides would call the rich dentists that they'd take on safari. They go, hey, Buwana. I don't know if that's still a term that is being used in the African community. And I'm not exactly sure exactly what it means. Who knows? I could be saying the most terrible slur right now, and I wouldn't know. But the cook is one of my favorite characters. Even though I can't remember his name. I mean, McCready, or Mac, as they call him throughout most of the film. Excuse me. He's the main character, played by Kurt Russell, and I don't know. I don't hate him, but he's just a, a Kurt Russell action movie hero. Which for the time, I can forgive. For the time period, I can forgive. Because that was like, it wasn't a trend yet. It was just how you wrote classic heroes. Because they weren't classics yet. But he's kind of boring. Great protagonist, because he's, like, always right. But as a character, not very interesting at all. Very boring. And that's the line art. I'm just gonna mix this up real quick, and then take a sip. Not my best mocha, but not the worst either. I'm probably gonna crop this down here, because I do want the dog to be, the not dog to be centered, but I'm not exactly certain of, like, if I just want to cut it off here or leave some of the sky, leave room for, like, more negative space. But I'm definitely gonna, like, crop it here. So, like, if I zoom in... Yeah, I think that's okay. Then I can add some of, like... Ooh, I could add some of the buildings, maybe? If I knew what they looked like. Down and done. Crop. Save. Now the snow, I'm going to texture in myself. That's going to take the longest time, actually, is the texturing of the snow. But I am going to draw this horizon line, just so I don't get lost, like a lot of the characters do in the movie. But then again, they're, like, stationed in Antarctica, and it's the beginning of winter, so, yeah, they're gonna get lost. There's just one bit of, like, not really silent storytelling, but it's just fun little character moment that I really enjoy. It's near the beginning of the film, and they're going to go check out this other, base that is nearby, because they found one of the survivors, and they're like, hey, what happened? So they're gonna head out, but a storm's coming in. It's like, it's okay, we won't be gone long. And then they walk out and was like, Mac! Because he's the pilot. It's like, get your gear ready! And he just looks over at the doctor, looks up at the sky, and just sighs. It just sighs. It just exhales. It's like, fine. It's like, okay, I guess we're going. It's just no dialogue needed. That was hilarious. Maybe if I add these in, the expression will work, because the expression in the sketch is not matching the line art, and I'm not sure why. It's in the eyes, and I'm not... Maybe... Yeah, it's because I moved the pupils down to make it look creepier instead of, like, neutral. I don't know, what are we thinking? Are we thinking creepy or neutral? Very superstition, writing on the wall. Here in superstition. I thought it was gonna be fun to color. The not dog. He actually has a longer, like, dogs have longer necks than I draw them with, and he's more floofy. But floof is really hard to draw, you know, especially when you're trying not to be cartoony. Fluffy things are really hard to draw because it's just a bunch of... I can always texture it later. Just trying to map out where the markings are gonna be. Which dog? I think I want to use this dog. Because they use, like, 3 or 4 dogs to play the role as not dog. It had a name. It was like the main actor, and I can't remember it for the life of me. It was a really cute name. So it'll be black, white, gray, a white patch. There's another line. Okay. And then the legs, which are like that. Okay. I'm not sure if I want to have the scene at night or day, but I know there's going to be snow. There's going to be blood. And there's going to be fire. And I'm going to handwrite the lettering just to make it seem more desperate. And this is in Norwegian, so if I'm not... I looked up the script, so it should be correct Norwegian. But if I'm not, like, putting any emphasis or any, like, flicks or anything on the lettering, I do apologize. If you're Norwegian in the chat, let me know. But that's... Ir eik en hund. That is not a dog. I'm running out of room. And that's just how it... I'm gonna put this, like, elsewhere, because this is just how I write naturally. Paste. Move. Shrink. And I'm going to put this lettering in overlay except the one at the bottom. I had the whole speech here. Like, what are you doing, you idiots? That's not a dog, it's a thing! It'll kill you all! That's what he was speaking in Norwegian at the beginning of the film, which none of our heroes speak Norwegian, so they didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And Mac also kept calling them Swedes. They're Norwegian, not Swedish. Big difference. Big difference being is I actually know more about Norway than I do Sweden. No offense to Sweden. But if I had the opportunity to visit the Nordic 5, you would not be top of my list. Definitely Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Finland. Sweden, you'd be last. I'm sorry. And yeah, nothing against Sweden. I don't know much about it. And I'm more pumped to see the homeland of Legos in Denmark. Or the wonderful Jotunheim National Park. Love to see that. Even though it's just a big snowy mountain. I don't care. One of my favorite movies was filmed there. I think I'll add more lettering later, most definitely. This I'm gonna get dramatic with. Not that dramatic. Det year Ike N. Oh, I ran out of room. I don't like the way this Ike is looking. Ike N. I think it's pronounced Hund, but it might also be Und. That's a bad D. Und. Dat hier Eikenund. I remember watching the movie and trying to have subtitles on, but failing because I was watching it on YouTube. And when I finally did get some some closed captions on, it just said speaking Norwegian. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's very helpful. But if you watch the Norwegian dub of the movie, you already know what the fuck's going on. It's kind of like in, and I'm gonna keep bringing this up because I saw a bunch of memes about it and I love the book. Mother. Fucker. That was almost bad. Thank God for... I'm using the wrong lasso tool, that's why. Anyway, it's like in Dracula, when Jonathan Harker is in Transylvania, and he's like, oh, I know a little bit of German, so that's helping me get through here, but oh, my, what are these locals yelling about? I don't speak their language at all, where they're literally saying, don't go to Chateau Dracula, he's literally a vampire, he's a demon! And they're like, oh, what funny locals. Which, it's funny, like, retrospectively, because it's like, oh, John. Oh, Johnny. If only you knew. But that's also the attitude a lot of Brits, like, have towards foreign countries. Or, like, people from foreign countries. It's just, it's a little bit of an, oh my, It's a little bit infantilizing. Oh my god. Buffered so hard on that sentence, I had to take a moment of silence. I'm trying to keep the word secret, because it's not detter. Ike en Hund. It's det ir Ike en Hund. 4 words. It is not A dog. Or that. Det. Something like that. I'm gonna preemptively put that on overlay, and then maybe change the text later. Okay. I'm gonna start with this, almost white, and then work my way back up to a gray. Why is the correction on? Turn that off. Don't worry, there'll be shadows, or maybe... Ooh, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do what I do in my comic for this bottom text. I'm gonna triple stack the lettering with different colors to emphasize the yelling. I yell when I'm nervous! Separate layer, actually. Now, the, artistic storyteller in me just wants to keep the fire in the dog's eyes, but I also kind of want it to have low lighting coming up from the bottom to, like, give it really hard shadows on the face. And then maybe a bit of fire in the distance. But I also just want to put blood and fire everywhere. Even though the blood and the fire everywhere was at the end of the movie, I think it would be funny if the dog, if instead of Childs that MacReady met with at the end of the film, it was just the dog that walked up. Or a dog that walked up and, like, licked his face, because a few of the dogs escaped, even though it shows that they did check out the other ones that did escape. And then... This movie, I guess content warning, this movie does kill some dogs. In fact, I think more dogs die in this movie than people. No, because Norway. We see a lot. More humans die than dogs do, but the fact that one dog died anyway was, too much. And it was really gross the way they died, too. But that's kind of what I like about it. It was disgusting. Back when horror movies were not afraid to make you uncomfortable. And of course it's gonna make you uncomfortable. It's an alien from outer space that assimilates other species to try and blend in. Or whatever. It was like, what was its ultimate goal, man? It was honestly just a parasite. Because like, in the movie, its ultimate goal is to make it to the mainland. But then, once it assimilates all life forms, what's it gonna do? It doesn't eat or anything. It wouldn't, like, turn them all into zombies. They would all just be, like a collective hive mind. Even though hive minds, as we understand it, are not real. Octopi. Yeah, I guess the closest we get to a real-life hive mind, as we see in fiction, is an octopus. Okay. Hard lighting. Yellow. That's the wrong layer. I'm just gonna put it above the line art. Oh! Because of that one scene in the movie, even though it was just one scene and then not canon to how you identify a thing, it's in one scene when a character was infected, they like digitally either removed or added they removed one of the character's eye shines so that his eyes were very dull and not reflective. Now, I don't know if that means they digitally added eye shines to everyone else for that scene, or they removed his. But that was just for one scene, and in Carpenter, I like both The Thing and The Shining, so I get them. I don't get them mixed up, I just mix up the names. Because I'm terrible with names. He said that was only for the one scene, and that's not, air quote, canon to how you identify a thing. That was just for the one scene to clue in the audience. So I might actually put that under the line art because his pupils are non-reflective. So if you like classic horror, I highly recommend it. As traumatic as an experience as that was, I highly recommend it. But if you're sensitive to, like, animal stuff, I will warn you, there is one scene. No, two scenes. But the first scene is the worst one, and the second one is just like a quick little beep on screen, and then it's gone. So I will warn you, there is some animal death in the movie. But the ratio of animal death to human death is, like, humans... It's like 3 to 1. But those dog actors were so good. They were such good puppies. And you too, Elias. You're a good puppy. Yeah. Oh, tired old man. It's kind of sad. My dog, I can tell. He's starting to show his age. That does not look like fire. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna double layer it. I'm gonna actually, hang on. Copy paste this down there. And then this is going to be above the line art slightly, and I'm going to blur it out. Maybe even turn down the opacity. Blur. Maybe if I add just a little bit in the eye. Ooh. Not accurate to the movie at all, but I like it. Okay. Then we get... I don't want to have the fire just be repetitive, because I like... Because organic things are not symmetrical. No organic thing is symmetrical, which is why when you draw half a face and then copy paste it to the other side, it looks weird. It's because humans are not symmetrical. Nothing in nature is symmetrical 100%. To my immediate recollection off the top of my head. Now, if some nerds want to come over here and go, I'm actually in the chat or in the comments and tell me how much of an idiot I am, because God, I hiccuped on my own nerd impersonation. Another thing that I really like about Carpenter's The Shining, not the Kubrick did The Shining. Carpenter did The Thing. Moment of silence for my sanity and stupidity. What? Anyway, one thing I like about The Thing is... I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, the rewatchability. You can watch this movie, like, 3 times and still notice something new each time. It is very well done. I've watched the movie like 2.5 times by now, if I'm keeping track properly. And I've noticed something new every time I watch it. It's just certain details about where each character is in certain scenes, how they're acting, knowing retrospectively who is the thing and who isn't, being like, oh, so wait, when was this? Oh, it was then. It had to have been. Okay, that's for the eye. I'm gonna merge these down. And now work on the dog. The puppy. Which I'm going to use the stipple brush, not the Sumi, the stipple brush for a little bit of it. Just so I can get the texture of some of the fur patterns. I'm pretty sure The Thing is one of those movies where you can, if you're like one of those people that micro-analyze every single little detail when it's your first time watching a film, you can probably figure out who's who and what's what. when you watch the film. It's just, when I first watch a movie, I just take it all in raw. I raw dog it first time watching, and then on the second time, then I microanalyze, because I get more of a dopamine rush of like, oh, this was foreshadowing, ooh, and then, oh, this was a misdirection, yay! Because if I'm microanalyzing the first time I watch a film, I'm not actually paying attention to the film. I'm just thinking about what I think is going to happen, or what I think it means, instead of just letting the movie eventually get to the point. Because a lot of movies just trust the process. Guys, it'll eventually get to the point. Something in my abdomen is poking me. It's nothing. So if you're one of those people, you can probably figure out, probably, I don't know, there's a lot of people are still screaming about the ending. Like, there's like whole channels dedicated to figuring out what the hell the ending means, and that is exactly how Carpenter wanted it. He wouldn't want anything less. Wouldn't have it any other way. Even Kurt Russell, and probably even Keith Davids doesn't know what the ending was, and they were in the scene. Spoilers. Another thing that I liked about it, that genuinely took me off guard, and it was in like a very good way took me off guard, is there weren't any like catchy one-liners. This was a true horror film. It wasn't trying to be funny. It wasn't trying to be political, even though it was bringing attention to an issue that was going on at the time, the AIDS crisis. But if you didn't know about that and you just watched the film, you're like, wow, what a very interesting sci-fi movie with a premise about isolation and not being able to trust who is who and being afraid of physical contact. Huh. That doesn't have any deeper meaning than that. It couldn't possibly have any other meaning. But then when you know, it's like, and then you rewatch it, it's like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense. It's cool that he brought attention to that, because it was a crisis. It was an epidemic. Not an epidemic, because that's worldwide. It was a, no, an epidemic is localized to an area. A pandemic is worldwide. What's the other one where it's just a group of people, not just one area? There's another word for it, and I'm totally blanking on it. Nerds in the chat, let me know. Now, before anyone wants to say, oh, well, they chose that lifestyle, so they have to deal with the consequences. Yes and no, because anyone can get AIDS. You get it through physical contact and the transferring of bodily fluids. That can happen anytime. If, like, one person with AIDS walks into a room of, like, 10 people and, like, sneezes and doesn't cover, guess what? A lot of those people have the chance of, like, getting the virus now. Because that's how germs and bodily fluids work. The water droplets in the mouth and all the germs that are in it live 3 days outside of the body. I don't know if AIDS is exactly the same way, but say someone uses a toilet and then you go in right after them, and you don't immediately wipe the seat with disinfectant, guess what? You probably have a chance of getting with whatever they got. Yes, it usually was spread and was most common in areas and groups where homosexuality was being practiced. But I refuse to believe 100% of the people that got AIDS during the crisis were homosexual. But because that was the stigma, they didn't get the help they needed, and a lot of people died. Anyway. No need to be spooked about weird aliens from outer space trying to assimilate us and eat our brains when we got enough horrors going on our own planet. I'm going to attempt to pull a crazy and do this all on one layer and just render back and forth. There's a bit of yellowing in the fur. Which happens. A lot of Arctic animals are white, but there's a lot of discoloring due to like dirt, sweat, and just general living. Now this is true with traditional artwork, but you can also use it for digital artwork. Is it called underpainting? Yeah, where this color does not go this far. But later, when I come in with this color, that's pink for some reason, there's no weird, just hard line. Okay, so not solid dark. Different types of gray. Some yellowing. And a little bit of browning in there too. Because it's a mixture. What are we doing? Alright. These areas are going to be slightly darker because they're closer to the back. What you do is you just overlap and then overlay. Now I think in painting, in like traditional painting, you start from the back and then you work your way to the front. Because of overlapping. You can just paint over it. But for digital artwork, we tend to do that in reverse. We start at the front and then work our way to the back. If I ever tried to do an actual digital painting, I don't really have the brushes for it on MediBang, so I would have to look for a different free alternative. Maybe, I think Krita has some pretty good brushes, so if I ever tried to do digital painting, that would be really fun, you know, following along with like a Bob Ross tutorial or something. Oh, my puppy snoring. This looks a little too dark. If I just... There we go. I genuinely really like the way this is going. I completely forgot to do the ears. I'll go back to it. See, this dog gets lighter than this dog. And now that might just be the lighting. We'll admit that might just be the lighting. But, okay, that bit's more pink. Or, not pink, brown. What's brown is just dark orange. There's no such thing as brown, it's just dark orange. Sorry to blow your mind. He is really snoring. So cute. Oh, and he's twitching. Oh, I wish I had a puppy cam. Don't worry about the line art getting in the way. I just put it there so I can map out where, like, the shape of the colors. And then when I get into the rendering phase, the line art is either going to be completely colored out, or I might just erase it and, like, desaturate it a little bit. But in the meantime, we're using it as a guide. Pixels on this are gonna absolutely drive me up a wall. But if we just don't think about it, it's so funny. That seems like terrible advice for any sort of like bad not bad experiences, that's not what I'm talking about. Any sort of like bad thoughts or anxiety or like future, it's like, man, that's gonna really bug me in the later. You know what? Just don't think about it. It'll be fine. It seems like shit advice, but as someone with a lot of anxiety, honestly, that is the best thing you can do. Just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. I know it's really hard to actually just don't think about it. But once you get to that, alright, fine, I'll think of something else, I'll focus on something else, and then pretty soon, you are focusing on something else. But then, I also have ADHD, so my brain is, like, busy trying to, alright, I just won't think about it. Oh my god, let's get into this project. Aren't I so glad I'm not thinking about this? God dang it, now I'm thinking about it. It is... That's way too dark. Hilariously stressful. Being stressed out. Another thing a lot of people... I don't want to say a lot of people forget about this, but I'm just saying it because I forget about it. When it comes to digital painting, or hell, even traditional painting, you can just go back over it. You can just go back and forth. Just go back and forth. Figure it out as you go along. Let's make this a little lighter. It's not gonna look exactly like the not dog, but if I just gently overlay, it becomes a lot softer, less hard lines, and it's lighter now. Look at that. That's a bit much. Alright, let's go back to the airbrush for this bit, because I'm just plopping some lighter bits in to match with the face. turn off the that's the wrong layer. If I turn off the line art, we still got a pretty good structure of the body. It's just the transition between the chest and the legs is a little stark, so I gotta fix that a little bit. Ooh, I can also just use the smudge tool and... Now, the just go back and forth method is a little bit harder to do with other mediums like watercolor or, hell, let's even do crayon or pencil. Or marker. That's really hard to just go back over, especially if you use a darker color. Once it's down, it's down. So that's why you start with the light. And then you can always just go back over it. Especially in digital, the back and forth method is your best friend when it comes to rendering digitally. But it also pays... It literally does pay. It does pay out in the end to be a multimedia artist. Now, I'm not a multimedia artist, but I do understand a lot of, you know, I do understand at least some of the fundamentals of a traditional artist and some of the other mediums. Let's put the line art back on. Okay, yeah. So later, when the line art is either colored or desaturated, structure's still there. Now, Pupper needs a nose. Pupper needs a nose. Little puppy nose. I'm gonna try in one shot. Not really one shot, but I'm gonna try and... The lot of reason, I think, why my art looks kind of weird, at least to me, and maybe to some people, is because I line art like a cartoon, but I render like... I don't want to say like a painting, but more painting-ish. And I personally think it's the funniest thing ever. Let me see Papa Nose. Because I look at the line art on this nose. That is thick line art. And sometimes if you just do texturing with the line art, you don't have to focus as much when it comes to the texturing in other places. And this is just pixel war. And I think that was my cat at the window. Give me one moment. I let this stupid cat in. And by stupid, I mean lovely. And pretty kitty. How the hell have I been streaming for an hour? Man. Anyway. Okay. I'm trying to match the shape of this nose, but obviously the way I draw noses is not entirely accurate to how noses are. If I make the nose maybe more red instead of blue, it'll show that it's supposed to be fleshy, but it's not a dog, so we can excuse all of the misrepresentation of dog anatomy or whatever, because it's not a dog. I mean, look at that. Well, the line art's there, so it kind of covers. There we go. Ooh! I take the smudge and there we go. Ooh, baby, listen, baby, ain't no valley high, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low to keep me from getting to you, baby. Look at that! I love the digital tools that are at my disposal. And even if I was a traditional artist, I could still do this because I could just and then smear the pencil with my finger. In fact, it'd be a little bit easier to do this traditionally. So to any of the Neanderthal, well, I shouldn't say Neanderthal, that was derogatory. To any of the uneducated, brain-rotted plebs that think digital art is just a computer drawing it for you, no. That is AI. Digital art, you still have to do. In fact, in some cases, it is more challenging. Challenging in other areas that are easy in traditional art, same as traditional art is challenging that are easy in some areas of digital. Imagine that. It's a trade-off. You traded one challenge for another. No. Yes. Come here, Hawk. Say hi to the mic. Say hi. She's meowing earlier and purring as soon as I pick her up. Nope. As soon as I pick her up to put her to the mic. Nope. Not interested. Oh, I've insulted her ladyship. You have food. Okay? Yeah, sit in your box. Cats. Got her hair at my nose now. Now this would take some eraser. That is not what I wanted it to do. What is it? You want back out immediately? Is that it? I just sat down? I haven't saved in a good while. Come on. There we go. Well, now she's leaving the room. All of this rendering probably isn't gonna mean a damn thing in the end because I'm just gonna color it over with something else. Oh well. Now for the ears that I've accidentally neglected. Okay. Lock it in. Slightly fleshy colored in between the fur, because this is not just solid fur, no matter how soft it is. Another thing that's really helpful with just digital painting and art in general. What the heck was that? Anyway, the highlights and the lowlights, yes, those are important, but the midtones are your best friend, because this looks kind of whack now. But trust the process. I know we say that a lot, but genuinely, that is some of the best advice you'll ever have. Just trust the process. It'll work out. Hopefully. Because if it doesn't, we'll just cry. Or we'll say that was what it was supposed to look like. I'm gonna preemptively smudge this line art because it's just not helping me being here, but I don't want to completely erase it because I still want some structure to the art. Hi, Dardoris. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. I am doing actually a lot better than what I've been doing in the past 2 weeks, if believe it or not. Actually had a full good night's sleep. And it was marvelous. Yeah, I know. You and me both, buddy. I remember waking up, I was like, wait a minute. Is it real? Could it be? What ho? But soft, what light come through yonder window? I don't know. I don't usually quote Shakespeare a lot, but sometimes. When I'm feeling extra quirky. A small part of me, and when I mean small, I mean 50%, just wants to copy paste the ear over to the other side. However, I have not done that this entire time. And I like the asymmetry, but it's not a dog. So if it was fully symmetrical, it looked weird and uncanny. But then a lot of people wouldn't know that that's the intention, that's the point. It's supposed to look weird and alien because he is. But you know what? I'll go full symmetry because with the thing, it is a perfect replica. That's what makes it so terrifying. I'm gonna be switching back and forth, not the sparkle brush, switching back and forth between airbrush and stipple pen again for this. Ron looks fabulous, as always. Well, thank you. I try my best. I will be keeping this ear open for reference. Same with the coloring. I'll eyedrop all the live long day. I am not above using the eyedropper tool. Or the switcheroo. What is that called? The down arrow key where that flips the canvas. That's what I'm not above flipping the canvas. I will do that. Because you honestly should do that. Digitally or traditionally, you should flip the canvas. It adds better perspective and it lets you know, like, if a painting is looking off and you can't figure out why, flip the canvas, because I guarantee you that is the reason why it looks weird. It's because you haven't flipped the canvas and you're looking at it from only one perspective. Turns out the character is leaning. You had no idea. it also really helps. You don't have to know exactly, but just, you know, just being mindful of direction. Like, which way does the fur point? Because a lot of people asked about rendering fur, and this does not look like fur up close at all, because it's got dots in it, it's got smears, but if you zoom out and just look straight at it, I haven't fudged the line art down there, that looks like fur. It looked close enough to fur. When is Halloween? That is this Friday. The 31st of October. I promised a live stream, but at the same time, I want to enjoy my Halloween and, like, watch movies, eat snacks. May or may not be a harvest carnival. No, that's tomorrow night. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of, despite spending all month prepping for it, came up on some, snuck up on me. Okay, I should smudge this line art, because it is bugging me. There we go. See, that looks like fur. Look at that. At least to me it does. Pull and stroke. Pull and stroke. Pull and stroke. And there you go. Line art that isn't too invasive. Or that implies shadow. You kind of somehow sprain your back this paint all day, but not enough to ditch school. Wow, that was fun. Oh my god, Waffles. Hi. Why are you not in bed? Wait, no, it's like evening for you guys. So yeah, go to bed. Take it easy, man. Since the chin is also furry, so you can tell this is a different dog between these scenes. It's because the markings on the face are completely different. But it's just subtle enough for when you're just watching the movie, which is in the pinned comment on top of chat, you don't, like, you almost don't even register that it's a completely different dog. Thank you, Waffles, man. I am gonna lose my mind, though. What? No. Okay, I think I used airbrushing for... Okay, bringing this color back. Very superstitious, writing on the wall. Oh, that's how I did it. Okay. And then you just come back. Back and forth, baby. That's how we do it. Try not to get too many straight lines. Like, you know, stagger it a little bit. Airbrush the mid-tones. Or eyedrop. Eyedrop the mid-tones. Bring it back. Bring it forward. There we go. You gotta separate these colors by integrating them a little bit more. Because you don't want just straight lines. At least when you're trying to do something in this style. If that's your style, and if that's what you're trying to do, go hog wild. But if you're aiming for something more painterly or highly rendered, you gotta separate the two. 3 or 4. See, I've used like 50 different colors just for this dog. Not including the eyes. Alright, now I'm gonna finish the line art. Not the stipple pen, the smudge. The smooze. Because of the way I've rendered it, I kinda don't need it. But I like it to be there as like a little, safety net. I'll be keeping the line art on the outside just the same. Because I still need it. Because the, sharp lines here would show. And I could also smudge those lines to match, to make it look more real, in air quotes, but my art style is not realism. As much as I lose my mind over details and like trees and rocks and fur in certain pieces, I have a more cartoonish art style, if you couldn't tell. I can also color the line art, but then that gets in the way of shading. Because you see, like, if I, for example, color the line art like this to try and blend it in, and then I come down here, quick example, the multiply, and like try to shade it, the line art sticks out, and it looks really bad, so I might just leave it, and then let general shading and yeah, rendering keep it going. Okay. Wow. That dog alone took an hour and 40 minutes. Sweet. Baby Jesus and the grown one too. The snow hopefully won't take as long. Okay, I'm not sure what color for what I'm going to do for the text, but I do know I want to do the triple thing, so I'm going to just do that now. Oh wait, that needs to be under. Because in my comics, this is how I show when a character is yelling. Because it's like, ah! And then when I do the coloring, then I'll figure out how that works. Alright, since I decided I'm gonna include a bit of the sky. Alright, chat. Even if you've never seen the movie, what do you think would look better with the, like, with some hard lighting? What do you think would look better? A daytime or nighttime piece? Because if it's night, I can use the fire or like off-screen fire as a light source. But if it's daytime, like in these photos, I can just use ambient grays because it was the first day of winter. Alright, we got one nighttime. There's not enough of us for me to like make a poll, and if I do make a poll, my comment gets unpinned. Honestly, Dardoris, I'm leaning towards the nighttime too, even though the dog is not there during the... Well, it is during the nighttime, but it's not in that scene. But we're not doing a scene, we're just doing a character piece, honestly, but that is still an illustration. Because if you do Antarctica during the day, this is what it's gonna look like. That is what Antarctica looks like during the day, which is kind of boring. So, if we just... I do it at night. Am I gonna do the same thing I did previously and only... Am I gonna one layer this like I did with the dog? The not dog? Okay, hang on. If I just block this... I'm just gonna block this in real quick. If this is just gonna be... And then, like, fire, and then dark with a bit of red. Stay with me now, this is just, imagine if this was my art style. Like, highly realistic rendered, realistic rendered characters, and then the backgrounds are just abstract blobs. Imagine if that was my art style. Alright, and then this is just me trying to figure out what it's gonna look like. The lighting's gonna come from the bottom. With like orange, a little bit of red because of the fire. Maybe some shading back here. In there. Some of this, some of this, some of that. And some of these, and some of them. Almost there. I mean, this is 95% of the art process. Is just, what if I... Hold on. Let's just see how this looks. If I just did a little bit of... Yeah, and then... yeah, and then maybe a little bit of this. Some of this. Like, how intense of a shading do I want it to be? You know? And then right there. There and there. And maybe a little bit of blue. Just to... So it's not just a solid mass. But still being careful of where the lighting is going to be. And then you just blur. I might lay down for a bit. See you in 5 minutes. The pain's getting worse. Take it Tylenol, man. Take some Tylenol, some herbal tea. Lay down with a hot pad on your pain spots. Elevate your feet or your knees, depending on how. Use a pillow to cradle your head. Like, seriously. When you're spraying your back, man, you need to cocoon yourself. Because that's the only way you feel better. Okay. Despite all of that, I don't like the way it looks. So we're just gonna start over. Now I know I don't want it to look like that. Alright, I'm gonna turn off the lettering and just focus on the background. Dink. Select inverse. There we go. I'm gonna be... I'm gonna try and start with the Sumi, because snow has a very weird consistency. And it's especially hard to get right. So if I just be conscious of shapes. Let me turn this... Where's the sketch? Let me just turn the sketch layer on so I know... This is where I wanted it. I wanted like a dune here. A little bit of a ridge here. I kind of want it to be darker around the dog, the not dog. To show that its like, to kind of imply that its shadow is bigger than it should. Okay. I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna render it as a night without using a bunch of overlay layers. I could just do that. I could just achieve the look I want with just color anyway, but I want it to definitively look like snow. So that means I need to work on the textures. Get rotated, idiot. Especially since snow... Now, I don't know about Antarctic snow, but I do know snow here. It was supposed to snow here yesterday, and I about had a heart attack. Snow is made of water, and water is very sticky. So it kind of just clumps together in ways that it wants to. So when the clump slightly breaks, it's more, like it forms crevices, or crevasse, which is a very, is like, all skiers, just by saying crevasse, I just sent a shiver down their spine, because they know the absolute dangers of a crevasse. So it's just a hole, a hollowed out part in the snow, that if you don't know what's there, you're plummeting forever, basically. And rescuers will have a heck of a time trying to find you, if they even know where to look. That's why a lot of people just go missing. Honestly, guys, it makes me so happy that chat's getting along. That's one thing I worry about as a streamer, is people annoying me in chat, man, I can just put them in timeout. I can just block them, or I can just ignore them, and the like. But when chatters are getting on each other's nerves and annoying each other and like starting arguments, it's like, okay, I don't care who started it, but you go over there, you go over there, you're both in timeout. And it's like, man, parenthood? I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to draw silly cartoons about aliens that simulate other life forms and how a dog puppet killed like 12 people. I just spoiled the entire movie for you. Whatever. The movie's like, I don't want to say 100 years old. It came out in the 80s. It's like 83 or something. It's not that old, retrospectively. But despite that, I feel old for almost being 30. You know, this is not yellow snow. I think I should have waited for like some lighting. I'm gonna switch to the stipple pen. Maybe that'll work out some of the rigidness. Or just completely soften it. Darn. I might just have to do a bunch of overlaying, which I'm completely fine with. I prefer to do it with color, but sometimes it's just way too hard. I'm also gonna make a little bit of red. Red's a deeper shadow. Rim it. And I want to give the dog like some sort of platform to stand on, so it's not just kind of floating from the background. I want to ground it a little bit. Ooh. Maybe if I just completely ignore all the hard work I put into it and just do the same thing with an airbrush tool on a multiply layer, it'll actually look the way I want it to. I also want to add blood here because blood was a very important part of the movie. And I'm not just saying that because, ooh, horror, there's blood and guts everywhere. Like, there's an actual scene in this movie where they try to figure out who's infected and who's not by sticking a hot copper wire in blood samples. And if the blood sample doesn't react, then they're human. But if it does go and then jump out at them, they're infected. Oh, shoot. Because I went rah in a very specific way, the other dog thinks some cats are fighting and she has to get involved. My bad. But it just... And then, yeah, the more I try to talk her down, the more upset she'll get. It is also very important for any artist to have a light hand. Don't be too heavy-handed with it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of delicacy. Not delicacy, but, you know, a delicate touch. Okay, Picasso, I like it. That looks too... Maybe if I do the taboo. There's so much layering going on, man. Okay, that looks better. Much better. And then if I, under the shading, add watercolor, red, and now this is going to take a little bit of finagling because blood on the ground, kind of easy. You just pool it. Blood on snow, a little bit harder to deal with. So this is going to be a bear with me moment because I'm not even sure how to do this. I did see one tutorial on how to do blood on snow on Pinterest like a few weeks ago. And by a few weeks, I mean genuinely probably a month at this point. It looks like a face. Hang on, let me... What if I use watercolor wet? Color mixing. Okay, we get more pigmented near the center. Because blood just coagulates that way. It's also in the middle of an Antarctic winter, so this blood is frozen by now. Or maybe it's freshly spilled, who knows? My bad. Shoot. Because it's selected. You know what? Let's just deselect and then focus on the blood. Let's try free transform, and because this looks a little too platformed. So if I make it, you know, a little flatter maybe, and then drag it this away. Yeah, that looks a little better. And then the trick is to then come over it again. A bit of snow. And turn that off. And rigid. It just grounds it. At least I'm told that technique, because blood is naturally hot, and when it falls on snow, it's going to melt through the snow. So it's going to be sunken in a bit deeper. And it's going to almost immediately coagulate. Because snow. Hopefully that looks good. I mean, it looks passable right now. Not to bring politics into this, but I'm so glad that voting day is over. Like, the whole party shoved in my face. Like, bitch, I don't care. I'm so glad you said that, because I have a ballot on my kitchen table that I need to fill out, and it's due in November. Like, next week, actually. Shit, I should fill that out. Oh, desaturated looks a little bit better. Then it's like melting into the snow. Maybe if I also smudge it a little bit. I'll put these on the same layer. Okay, yeah. Somehow that's looking a little bit better. No hard lines. Just good old-fashioned smearing. I think that's good. I'm gonna put the next blood on a different layer. That's a lot lighter than I wanted it to be. There we go. Really cool. Thanks, man. This is my first time trying to put blood on snow, so hopefully it looks good. Again, that looks like a face, man. I need to stop with the faces. Just draw a little smiley face. Just give a guy a mustache with some blood. I don't know exactly how much fake blood they went through for this film, but it had to have been a ridiculous amount, because there's like a scene where the entire refrigerator of backup blood gets broken into and it's just pooling everywhere. And they're like, great, now we don't have any more backup blood supply in case any of us get hurt, or like now we can't do the blood test and compare who's who, like who's actually real. But also, man, the puppetry in this movie is so good. Now, since this is closer to the foreground, I need to be more mindful of how it looks. Like, this I can get away with. Ooh. Okay, airbrush. Now to help fudge this out a little bit. takes a good minute to make it look the way I want it to. Hopefully this doesn't look tacky. I'm actually experiencing the same thing Carpenter experienced during the film. Because there's a scene where they, like, have a big old puppet, because a lot of... Before the age of good CG, they used puppetry, and it was actually, in my opinion, a little bit more creepy. Anyway, they got this big old puppet rig, and they're like, man, this looks stupid. Is this gonna actually scare audiences, or gonna look goofy? And then set design was like, don't worry, trust us, trust the process. They basically said, trust the process, it's going to look creepy. And then they did the scene, and then yeah, it did look very creepy. When I watched the movie, I got a chill down my spine, man. Okay, that looks good. If it's more spiky, I guess it looks good. Because it's melting and bonding to the snow crystals, turning it into water, and then freezing again, so it's just blood ice cream. Okay, that's why that looks good, and this looks bad. Okay. Pays off when you're an artist. It pays off to us to also know science. And how biology works, or how anatomy works. My wrist is actually cramping a little bit. If you heard that loud crack just now, that was my wrist. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I want a bit more blood here and there. So, from the, like, the way back here, I'm just gonna use this. I mean, when it's rendered, you probably won't even see it, but it's at least there, slightly. What? Oh, it's just my phone. It's just YouTube. Oh, that was too much. I don't want to have too much symmetry when it comes to blood. So if I do just a bit of that, tiny bit over there. that might be a little too much. Some up here. Oh, that's a bit much. Again, it's another fucking face. It's like the crab of artistry. It always turns into a face. It always turns into a crab. That's a little too... What the fuck? Accidentally grabbed the scroll bar. Why does this keep turning out to look like a face? Why does this keep looking like a face? Why? Why do you keep looking like a face, Buster? That looks a little less like face, but still. Maybe if I blur this just a little. stop looking so much like a face. We're almost done. Just need to add in some, that might be a bit much. Excuse you. Maybe if I try smudge. Okay, that actually doesn't look that bad. If I can just somehow mimic this onto this, maybe it will turn out aight. You know what? I'm just gonna say that's good enough. Because if I just keep futzing, we'll never get anything done. Even though we wouldn't actually see it, I am going to somehow put in a few stars. To accentuate the outer space origin. Even though I'm not sure what constellations are down. You can see down in Antarctica, but I'm at the point where I just want it done. Because it's lunchtime and my back hurts. And I'm hungry. Well, thank you, man. I think at least if it turned out at least somewhat passable, I'd be okay with it. No blood on the doco, though. That's the wrong layer. Where's the... There it is. It's from Hard Light. Yeah, this is fan art for an old horror film called The Thing. And it is very spooky. If you like mystery and body horror with isolation, if those are like your brand of spooks, I highly recommend it. Although I did say this earlier in the stream, I will warn you, there is some animal death. And there's a lot of body horror, if I didn't mention that, or a lot of gore, but it like means something. Is it terrible? There are two scenes. The first one is the worst of the film, and the second one is just like a quick little snapshot. And you can clearly see it's puppets. So, you know, no real animals are being hurt, but, you know, it's just the idea of these poor dogs. But it's not, I don't think it's like mindless horror, you know, like, oh, they killed the dogs just because. No, it adds to the story, it adds to the horror element, and it's not just for blood and guts sake. So I highly recommend the film, but I also don't recommend the film because I'm just gonna, I curl up in the corner when I watch this movie because it scares the willies out of me. But it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen. It hasn't given me nightmares, thank goodness. Yeah, it is... Oops. It is horror, so yeah, there's gonna be animal death, but... I don't know. It affected me. Once it was over, I was fine, sort of. But leading up to that scene and, like, during the scene, it's like, oh, no, no. But I was just trying to, like, I'm just trying to remind myself, these are actors, these are very well-trained dogs that are acting this way. I hope that they were treated well on set. It was the 80s, you don't know. I was like, but all in all, a very good movie. Kind of slow burn horror, which I like the slow burn element because it lets you sit in with the dread and isolation that the characters are feeling. I like it when movies just let you sit with the emotions instead of just constantly talking at you. You know? There. You've never been emotional about any movie. I am just an emotional person in general, so it doesn't matter what it is. It's probably gonna get some sort of response from me. Especially if the character's performance is just knocking it out of the park. Like last stream, I was talking about Silence of the Lambs and how the autopsy scene just really... It made me choked up just talking about it on stream, even though it had been a while since I've seen the movie. It's because Jodie Foster's performance was like, yeah, this was once a human girl, and she's no longer with us. And I get it, it's just a movie. No need to get all torn up about it. But movies are supposed to move you, and I was moved. So the movie did its job in getting an emotional rise out of me. Now, in The Thing, it just scared the ever-living out of me. Mostly because the monster designs in this movie are so good. If you watch it for nothing else, but the puppetry and the monster designs are so freaky and very well done. Like, the actors didn't have to pretend, really, when reacting to the monstrosities beyond human comprehension were unfolding in front of them. Because, yeah, they could just look at it and gag, because obviously it smells bad. I mean, yeah, since this movie is also from the 80s, it's gonna have its hoax. It's gonna be kind of hokey. But there's no, and I was saying this earlier, I'll say it again now, there's no quippy one-liners every 5 seconds in this film. And it's so refreshing to see movies that aren't just constantly like, wee hee hee, I'm so quirky. Relate to the protagonist. Like, nope. You're not, I think in this movie, you're not even supposed to relate to the protagonist. That's the point of the film, that he is alone and not really trusted by his he's trusted by his comrades, but it's like begrudgingly, because he's kind of next in, he's the most take charge of the group. What's on this layer? I know that's the line art. What's on this layer? I'm not noticing any differences. For fuck's sake. That was it. Okay, yeah, just a few pixels. Very superstitious. Writing on the wall. Very superstition. I guess the reason why movies get such a reaction out of me is because my, like, first reaction to how characters are reacting is, what would I do? That's on the wrong layer. Fuck. What would I do if I was in that situation? How would I feel if I was in their shoes? And I guess it's the stupid hyper empathy that nobody talks about when being neurodivergent. No one talks. Oh, actually, I like that a bit more. Yeah. I mean, like, if a movie is trying so hard to take itself seriously, and it's like, yeah, take me seriously, you know, and it's just doing... This is art we're making. It's like, come on. It's not that. You're not that cool. Then I'm like, yeah, whatever. Man, nobody's taking you seriously. In fact, this is funny. Every time I try to do fire with, like, the text, it always looks like ketchup and mustard. So what I'm gonna do instead, because we're getting to that point of the show, folks, I'm just gonna get... That kind of looks like... That's supposed to be lava. But hang on, let me bring up a different texture. That's a bit better. Still lava. And if we copy, paste, drop her down low, and make it heavy. I forgot I'm still on free transform. Hold on. Like salami pizza. I've never had salami pizza, so I don't have that frame of reference. But don't worry. Trust the process. I say through grit teeth. Just Yeah, I know what it is. It's just I've never had it. Because I don't like meat on my pizza. Hot take before we end stream. I hate meat on pizza. I'm sorry. I just don't think it belongs there. Every meat that they put on pizza tastes terrible. By itself, fine. On pizza, disgusting. Same thing with pineapple. Stop putting pineapple on pizza. You can put peppers, olives, onions, mushrooms. You know? The only time I'll accept meat on pizza is if it's like a... not a ranch chicken, but, you know, like what's the word? Like chicken Alfredo pizza. That is the only time I will sort of allow meat on pizza. It looks like the Indiana Jones. Da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Dun, da, 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 da. So you like cheese pizza? I mean, you can put whatever cheese you want on a pizza. I don't care. Well, maybe blue cheese, because I'm not a fan. But, like, you give me, like, a 45 cheese pizza, I'll love it. Especially if the tomato sauce is good. But I prefer heavy vegetable. So then I can put sriracha and a little bit of granulated Parmesan cheese to soak up the oil. Mixy, nice and spicy with the vegetable, so I still get my vitamins. And mwah, that's a good night for me. That looks okay. Alright, what's going on here? Okay, well this doesn't look terrible. But the black is kind of blending in. If I make it maybe more red, like a deep, yeah, like a little darker than that. Yeah, if I make it red, there we go. Yeah. Dat hier ik en und and hund. Und is more German. This is Norwegian, so hund or hund. I don't remember. He was speaking really fast at the beginning of the film, and basically this phrase is Norwegian for that's not a dog, or it's not a dog, or something like that. Oh, that's still there. Whoops. That shouldn't be there. That was a bit aggressive. Okay, I like it, but I'm not sure about where the text is on the ear. You know, this one. I'm just not sure about it. I'll maybe move it. Let's turn off the free transform. And then move it like here or something. Now the light button, that can stay. Okay, wow. Actually, I'm very happy with that. That is pretty creepy. Of course, I'll come back and look at it later after I've had lunch and figure out the rendering, but for now, I throw in the towel. Ah, my back. Goodness. I'll add the branding somewhere and figure out the line art for the legs. I might blur them in a little bit, or in or out, because they are a little thick. I might actually just erase parts of the inner bit, because these lines are they're a little too thick and dark. And why is my arm going numb? So I'm definitely going to fix that. I might futz with the lighting just a little bit. But I like the fire in the eyes. I like that. I like the straight-on stare rather than the blank stare we had in the sketch. Both are creepy, but I like how this implies there's more intelligence going on behind those eyes. At least perceived intelligence. I'm kind of upset, though, that the lighting and shading cover up all the hard work I did on the fur. Because you just don't see any of it anymore. Or you barely see how much hard work I put into this eye piece, and it's not even visible. Anyway. C'est la vie. Y'all know on the live stream, so the VOD folks and the here or later, y'all know. The DeviantArt folks will only get the final result. They don't get the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this, and more than a few side tangents. And that is going to be it for this stream. No stream tomorrow because it's Thursday, and I should have... Tuesday and Thursday should be my days off streaming. Friday is going to be a bit... Here's the thing. I have an art piece ready to go. But I have another story that I want to draw fan art for. I've shown you guys for. The new MLP Creepypasta Maze. And Part 3 comes out this Friday. And I really want to listen to it and draw fan art for it. At least for the beginning bit. I don't know if I'm going to like the whole thing, but the way it started I really like. So I'm going to draw fan art for that sake. So... I might just draw this off stream. Like, just while I'm listening. I don't like to draw while I listen to things for the first time, but I kind of do. But I do have other art for the next live stream this Friday. That should be around a similar time. So, boom. You can't even see it because it's so small. There it is. Boom. It's from Blumhouse's Invisible Man. Alright, bye. And that's all you will get to see. Man, I'm hungry.